If you go back to our full episode of Hockey Inside Out, our last one, we spoke about Marc Bergevin's comments regarding his own future as general manager of the Montreal Canadiens organization. Another story that came out of that press conference. Well, not necessarily. Well, during all of the media availabilities that day, the story rang out that Joel Bouchard, the now former Laval Rocket head coach, has now moved on to another job in the AHL, this time as head coach of the San Diego Gulls, the minor league affiliate of the Anaheim Ducks. And there seems to be a bit of maybe some confusion over the handling of all of this. He was without a contract when the season ended, and he seemed to have been presented these scenarios. He could have opted to go to Anaheim and join their organization. He could have opted to return to Laval as head coach, or he could have joined Dominic Ducharme as an assistant coach on his staff. And he opted to leave the Canadiens organization and go to the Anaheim Ducks organization. What do you guys think of the Joel Bouchard story? Was it a mistake for the Montreal Canadiens to let him go?
Well, it's an interesting situation. I don't know how much it was of them letting him go. His contract was up. As you said, Marc Bergevin had offered him the opportunity to either return as head coach in Laval or come to Montreal as an assistant coach. Joel Bouchard and Marc Bergevin, I think, are very similar personalities. Very big egos, very sort of outspoken, and maybe they sort of clashed a little bit like that. You have to wonder if maybe Joel Bouchard was thought of as a possible replacement for Marc Bergevin down the road as GM. That's something I thought maybe, considering it has to be a bilingual candidate, he would fit that role, and he has GM experience from his days in junior. So whether Bergevin looked at him as a threat. I also think back to last season when Joel Bouchard was constantly praising Karl Alzner, who was not Marc Bergevin's favorite player or person. I don't know if that had anything to do with that, if that upset Marc Bergevin. But I think it comes down to also, if Joel Bouchard wants to become a head coach in the NHL, the path there certainly looks a lot quicker through Anaheim or through San Diego and then Anaheim, because we figure Dominic Ducharme is going to get a contract probably 3 years. He's not going to get you. I don't think they're going to fire him next year after he went all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So I think for Joel Bouchard, life could be worse than living in San Diego, that's for sure, or Anaheim. So I think it's a combination of things. I think maybe Joel Bouchard was a little frustrated the way things went here, didn't work out the way he thought things were going to go, and just thought it was time for a change of scenery. I think it's a loss for the Canadiens. He did a good job with the Laval team in the time he was here. I don't think his coaching style is everybody likes it. He's a very in-your-face type of guy, very aggressive style of coach that works in junior. It worked at the AHL level. I don't know how well that would work at the NHL level. But I think for Joel Bouchard, it's a career move where he figures if he's going to be an NHL head coach, he has a better chance of it happening with Anaheim than it does in Montreal.
And perhaps he just didn't feel appreciated here. If you think about when they made the coaching change, it was Alex Burrows, his assistant, who got called up to join the Habs coaching staff. Luc Gillianet from RDS had an interesting point that apparently Joel Bouchard was only offered an assistant coaching job with the Canadiens after he said that San Diego has offered him the head coaching job. So, that was kind of thrown in after the fact. So maybe on top of that, that was another thing that he said, you didn't lay that option on the table until I told you someone else was interested in me. And maybe that's why he felt it was the opportunity to walk away. But it just kind of seemed like, the relationship between him and Marc Bergevin just wasn't working out. And Joel Bouchard wanted to see where his career can take him with a new organization rather than staying with Montreal.
And, in that hockey business, you have to obviously look out for your best interest. Anaheim, like Stu said, I think is an area where he probably has a better chance to advance to a head coaching job. They've, spoken highly of him, happy to have him as part of their organization. And, he's the kind of guy that maybe they didn't see eye to eye with the Montreal Canadiens group. And, that if that's the reason, you have to move on and you have to do what you think is right. And obviously, it wasn't attractive enough, no matter what the conversations were here in Montreal, that it wasn't going to work out. And he looked for, better options. And, I wish him the best of luck out there.
Yeah, I'm sure when he took the job in Laval, Joel Bouchard was thinking, looking down the road, there's a possibility of maybe he becomes GM of the Canadiens, maybe he becomes head coach of the Canadiens, and both of those doors sort of closed. and figured, okay, time to move elsewhere and do something different.
By the way, in Anaheim, Dallas Eakins is the head coach. He has 1 year left on his contract. Jeff Ward, who previously was in Calgary as the head coach, taking over for Bill Peters, and I believe also worked in Boston and New Jersey as an assistant, is Dallas's assistant in Anaheim. I'm kind of confusing with the city names being mentioned here, but I'm with the opinion that the pipeline, or at least the way or the pathway for Joel Bouchard to become an NHL coach might be a little bit quicker to Anaheim as opposed to what it would be like in Montreal. But I'm not convinced that Joel Bouchard would be the very first person that Anaheim would consider to replace Dallas Eakins if it gets to that point. I'll say this. The fact, or at least we could go off of what Joel Bouchard has told us, and also I think what Bob Murray of the Ducks mentioned in the statement as well, that Ducks organization has seen what Joel Bouchard was able to do in Laval, and they use the word, at least Joel Bouchard said they use the word believe. And I think for a guy like Joel Bouchard, who you can't convince me otherwise that he doesn't have aspirations to take what he's doing to the National Hockey League, to have someone say they believe in you, just using that word can do a lot to one's confidence. And hey, maybe the word wasn't actually used, but I'm just inclined to believe that Joel Bouchard saw that opportunity in Anaheim and saw the situation that was there and thought, okay, there's an opportunity for me to kind of really put my stamp on things out with the Ducks and the Gulls and their prospects that are out there. And then everyone can see that I'm actually a good coach, because it didn't look as if any other NHL team had interest in him. And I'd seen rumblings that other AHL teams were impressed with what he was able to do, but I wasn't necessarily convinced that, Joel Bouchard, I wasn't sure about his future as a coach beyond the AHL. And Stu, you bring up a really important point as well. His style is not for everyone. Jake Evans, during the postmortem, mentioned the fact that, he wouldn't be where he is without him. Then you have other people like Dale Weiss, who played like 30-something games, who said that, they wouldn't trust Joel Bouchard with prospects. I'm really intrigued at the contrasting comments for people praising him and for people who did not want to praise him. I'll say this about Carl Alsner as well, because I got to speak to him about this, and he was saying how Joel Bouchard was instrumental in helping him adjust to his time in the AHL and got him to do some things that other AHL veterans wouldn't necessarily get the opportunity to do, like to have his own hotel room on road trips and stuff. So Joel Bouchard was still, as a professional coach at least, was trying to adjust and was trying to, not just in terms of his tactics, but also trying to adjust with conforming to players' needs with young players and older players. This is a really interesting file. I don't know if anyone else has any other thoughts they want to drop on Bouchard before we go out, but this is a really interesting story for me.
Dale Weiss strikes me now as a bitter guy for whatever reasons. The way his NHL
we go in there. Oh, okay.
And so he didn't want to get sent back to the AHL, obviously. So maybe there's some bitterness there towards Joel Bouchard. That's what I thought when I heard Dale Weiss's comments. So it's going to be interesting to see now who the next Laval coach is. Do they send Alex Burrows back to Laval to be a head coach? If his goal is to be a head coach somewhere in the NHL in the future, he'd need to have some head coaching experience so that as he go back to the AHL to get that. A team, you look into the future, a team like Vancouver, where Alex Burrows played and was a hero there, if an head coaching job open there in the future, would he be a candidate? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. There's a lot of interesting storylines over the summer, but it's going to be interesting to see who ends up replacing Joel Bouchard in Laval.
And I think really you have to, consider his decision with the people that he's going to be working with. I think it's really, really important. The best it can be to have guys that are, you enjoy, the guys that you respect. So the relationship and personality plays a big part in decision making when it comes to moving from one organization to another. And this could be very well part of the picture too, why Joel ended up leaving and going out west.
Was it a mistake for the Montreal Canadiens to let Joel Bouchard go elsewhere? Let us know in the comments section below. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit hockeyinsideout.com to listen and watch our full episode.